ukufa phela kuyimvelo ukufa kuwe ngoba uma ubona abantu bebaningi nje balamabhokisi ukuthi amathuna wonke lapho ukufa kwemvelo kwafika nokufika komuntu kwangeke kube khona into ebizwa ngokufa uma umuntu engazange bekhona.
Death is defined in so many different ways. But I think what is common is that it's just the end of the life. But it's not the end of you as a person, because you are just passing on to the next level of your life, whatever that life is. So in my culture, it is believed that you are there, somewhere there, as a spirit.
When my husband passed away, I was 36 years of age. And then my husband is from Eastern Cape. I'm from Gauteng, but we are living here in Gauteng. So when he died, the family is at Eastern Cape. So they told me that I have to bury my husband in Eastern Cape. And that for me, it was like stressful, because we've discussed this with my husband, that when he dies, I will bury him where he lives. And they insisted that I have to bury him at Eastern Cape. They don't give you a choice anyway. They just tell you, this is our son and our ancestors are in Eastern Cape. He can't be buried in Gauteng.
Ninamndeni ukuyibamba nje nifake emgodini kodwa uNkosazi othi ifakeni la. Uma engathi uNkosazi ikhanda lale ndoda ngifuna libheke ngala. Nizolibhekisa la kusho khona yena baba. Umnikazi wale ndoda ile nkosikazi. Umuntu oyeqa umthetho wenkosikazi eshade nomuntu, hayi usuke sephumile emthethweni wesintu. Akusiwona usiko lolo.
They were busy asking me about the size of the coffin. And I was like, I don't know the size of the coffin. And when I go to the undertakers, they said, no, we don't know the sizes. You just tell them it's a casket. The reason they wanted the size, because the graves have been dug by themselves. So when they came here, and then I directed them to the undertaker so that they can go and measure that coffin. But later that afternoon, I found out that they asked for umzimba, to take umzimba to Eastern Cape without my knowledge. But fortunately enough, the undertaker contacted me to confirm, and then I told them that is not what we arranged.
Unkosikazi oshonelwe unalo ilungelo lokwenza noma yini la eshadele khona. Kodwa aqale emndenini wakhe qala utshele.
They asked me about inzilo, if I'm going to wear them, and then I told them no, I don't believe in that.
How these things are said to this other person, you would expect it to do A, B, C, and D. Are you being told? Are you being consulted? Are these things discussed? Or you are just being told? Treated like a minor, treated like a nothing. If people sit down with you and say, you know what, in our tradition or in our culture, this is how we do stuff. How do you feel about it? Are you okay with this? Or you're not okay, you've got other alternatives. It's how we treat people. It's how we communicate. If people just come to you and tell you and impose things on you without any kind of discussion, you're human, you're going to be angry. You're going to be angry, you're going to reject them. Then there will be disagreements, then there will be fights, and it's not okay.
Then when you arrive there, the clothes were already being done. After they asked me that, I told them that I don't believe in that. I don't want to wear those clothes. But they told me that I'm going to wear them.
She must mourn. We even set the date. We even set the terms and the conditions. Certain things she can't do, she can't eat, where she can go, where she can't go. Mainly because it is a patriarchal society. It is a society whose foundation it is to oppress women. That's why doing this work, we need to ensure that we challenge men, we challenge traditional leaders and say, well, it be your daughter, how would it sit? Would it sit well with you? A culture that undermines people's rights.
It's how you're being treated. It's unfortunate that in most instances, people are not sensitive. They tend to believe that it's our brother, it was our sister who's passed away. We have all the right to do what we want to do. We have all the right to tell you how to do it and how to mourn the death of your partner. without consultation with you. This is what makes life difficult for people that are in the mourning process, because they are not being considered as human beings. Not all families, but in other families, you'll find that.
A woman has no say in our culture, so it's so painful. Uma ushadile ungumama wekhaya, una this pride onayo, you know, your shoulders are high and everything, but lapho bakwenza ufile njengomntwana omncane. Kubuya nokuziblame ukuthi ngaba ngishadalanga la kahle kahle.
She has no say because she is the property of this family.
Women in all societies are always considered as minors, people without rights, that don't even hear them, don't listen to them. They will always be told what is good for them.
This is based on the research that was taken. So what we saw from the research is that the first thing that happens with widows is that they're isolated before their husbands are even buried.
I was alone there, they didn't even care about me.
So what happens is that during that period of mourning, the widows are isolated in a separate room, and after the isolation starts even before the husband is buried.
Nkosikazi mayishonele indoda ihlala odongeni imboze ke ngubo yokulala isitho ngoba angithi uma eshonelwe uyakhala ngoba uhambele isithandwa sakhe mubi ebusweni kusuke kufihlwa ukuthi abantu bangamboni abanye ukuthi mubi kanjani mayikhala.
It's just the perpetuation of slavery of women, the oppression of women in our culture.
Abo mama bakhona nabo mara nabo bana say then ukhuluma abo baba bekhaya ukuthi yibo abaphethe indaba leyo.
Men generally throughout the world, we set the agenda, we even set the content of the agenda, irrespective of, you know, the other people it's going to affect them negatively or adversely.
Abo mama bangena la endabeni ukuthi bahambe nawe ke emlanjeni and then bazokuyala ukuthi after so ugqokile fekwenzakaleni. Emfuleni xa ufika khona uhamba nezalukwazi abantu abadala omama ngithi. So you have to be naked, number one. And then because bafuna umfula ohambayo, because they are believe ukuthi una that unesinyama, so uwasha whatever you have yendoda yakho ishiyeke kuwe. So you have to ungene emanzini ahambayo. Bona bahlala ecaleni phofu ne wena ungene ke kulomfula ohambayo. Ekuseni kubanda ube naked in front of them. It's not even comfortable that we understand abantu ongabaziyo laba, but you have to be naked. And kunabantu abadlulayo emakhaya kuvuka ekuseni anyway, so wena ulapha emlanjeni kuyabanda, you are naked, wonke umuntu ujonge wena, and then bazokutshela ama parts wonke for wahlambe, especially your private part, because that but it's so important. You have to wash everything. That's how they believe. So and then bathatha isiza ke, and then yeah, bashaya impahla ngesiza, yeah, and then ngaqokiswa ke impahla ezo, and then uhambe ke uye ekhaya.
Ngemva kwensuku ezintathu siyaqala ke segqokisa ingubo zokuzila ke egqokiswa isidwaba isikhakha sembuzi emhlophe. Uqala umbala wokuzila wawumunye kwakuyisikhumba sembuzi emhlophe. Kwaya ke kwafika ke izwe lashintsha ke izwe liyahamba libe liphucuke lingene kwezinye iteji. Kwafika ke inkolo yamaloma. Amaloma segqokisa amakhosikazi inzilo lemnyama. Manje bonke abantu ke basebe duma nengubo ezimnyama ke cha aziyona imvelo ingubo ezimnyama kusiyona indwangu yemvelo. Umuntu uma eshonile unezitepu ezulwini komkhulu bakhe akavele nje asuke nje semthama ahamba ohlala nogogo bakhe kumbe ohlala nomkhulu bakhe. Kuba nezitepu ba asithi simgezela izandla khathe eshonile sigeza abantu laba amakhalafu ngemva kwaloko sesigeza izitsha zalendoda ukuthi athi ishonile ngemva kwaloko seseyikhuphula sisa komkhulu bayo bathi abanye ukubuyiswa bathi abanye ukukhushulwa bathi abanye ukuphendula itshe. Osiyeza
sizofika we baba noma Osiyeza siyagudla lo mhlaba siyawela laphesheya kulezo ntaba zimnyama apha sobeka phansi konke kuhlupheka.
If you are mourning, for instance, it's not easy to be talking to other people, shouting and doing all sorts of things. When you go out of your house to a bus stop or taxi rank, it is difficult for you to be pushing and talking to people, right? You are wearing inzilo. And ideally, that inzilo was supposed ukuba ikwenzele i-respect.
Inzilo phela yenzela ukuthi mfana wami uphawu lokuhlonishwa. Ngeke ahambe etshela abantu yena ukuthi phela ubaba kaSimphiwe sashona. Hayi phela ubaba kaSimphiwe Masiko. Uma egqoke lenzilo kwenzela ukuthi wena ohlangana naye emhloniphe. Uma ubona umuntu mfana wami ezilile endleleni, inkosi yazizile zama ngendlela yonke ukuthi umhloniphe indlela mayincane enzohlangana enihamba yona chezuka wena ubuyele eceleni. Ahamba ngenkululeko ngoba lo muntu usenkingeni udinga ukuhlonishwa akuyena odinga ukuhlonipha wena odinga okufanele uhloniphe yena ngoba usenkingeni ungamphazamisi.
I think people came up with inzilo to ensure that lo mhlolokazi is respected in the community. Yes, there are lots of bad things about our culture, but maybe at the beginning there were good intentions, but they got corrupted along the way.
Widow is a human being. It's not clothes.
Impahla egqokiwe igcina usiko. Kodwa umuntu ofelwe ngumuntu, akufelwanga impahla. Kufelwe umuntu. Umuntu ke segcina usiko ngempahla ayigqokile. Impahla nalomuntu kuyahambisana. Ngoba lo muntu phela uma ngabe engayigqokanga lempahla, sokhona ukuthi athi ehamba ngilapha endleleni, bampasula abantu. Phela muhle, umuntu uphilile. Namadoda siyamthinta. Nangu abanye sibamemeta nje ukuthi hey wena wema sibanibani. Woza kanti akamenyezwa lo muntu. Kufanele abe nalo uphawu isign esho ukuthi ningangiphazamisi. Mina ngisesibone esimbi. Kungako ke amakhosazi engasahlonishwa nje ilongazili kwawo.
Ngathi i-culture vele iqindezela bomama anyway.
It comes from our culture because women have to forever feel inferior. That is a way of taming you as a woman. Because when you are wearing those clothes, you shouldn't look at other men. Even if those men admire you, even if you fall in love with those men, the fact that you are wearing inzilo, you should not, follow your heart. Yet men, because they are not wearing inzilo, they fall in love during the process of the funeral of their wives. That is allowed. Even during the arrangements of the funeral, that man can move around because akazilanga like a woman who is sitting on a mattress. He has a freedom of movement. And this woman doesn't have a freedom of movement.
After the husband is buried, they're not supposed to come into any form of contact with their neighbors, and sometimes their children are taken away from them. So that type of social isolation, in this day and age especially, was very alarming. I mean, these are things that you read about, but then you can't really connect. So for me to be able to connect certain faces to those stories was like, wow, this is an eye-opener.
And you tell me that we've got a progressive constitution in this country. Yet all these rights are being taken back in lots and lots of different ways. Inzilo is a way of just taming you and ensuring that you stay in the house and you stay submissive. You just do whatever you are told, period.
Akumelanga ngiye town fengiphathise abantu.
So how do we define mourning? Should mourning be behind closed doors? So these are cultural constructs, eh? People expect a widow to be behind covers, on sleeping maybe probably 24/7, tears rolling, I think that's a stereotype that has been socially manufactured, that the widow should be able to do that.
If kwenzekile ukuthi kunideka mina like a bank, if I go to town, but fengenze sure ukuthi etaxini ngihlala kwi-back seat. And angimi mina ku-queue like everybody. Fengihlale phansi mangiku-queue because umfelokazi akami. and then nalokuthi awujonga abantu ke emehlweni xa uthetha ungumfelokazi. Ilanga feli ngashoni ngingekho endlini, bathi ke angina sekhaya until ngize ngikhumule. If ngiyacawa ecaweni fe ngithi mangena ngihlale ku back seat because nginesinyama, so akufuneki ngibe phambi abantu babe semva kwami ngizobathelela ngalesinyama.
I haven't seen insilo yamadoda. I'm still looking for indoda, a widower. Ngabafazi abafaka insilo. Then the question is, if amadoda bazila with their hearts, why should women have clothes that shows the whole world that they've lost their husbands?
From time immemorial, society has always thought that women are but, a fair game. Yeah, all you need to do is just control them. All you need to do is that, because they have no mind that I as a man, that's what patriarchy is all about. I as a man, we will not only set the agenda, we will even determine and dictate the contents of that agenda. And in this instance, it is us men who says, we know what is good for women. She must mourn. We even set the date. We even set the terms and the conditions. Certain things she can't do, she can't eat, where she can go, where she can't go. Mainly because it is a patriarchal society. It is a society whose foundation it is to oppress women.
We are a better society as the South Africans because we've got good constitution. We've got 50% of women in parliament. Men are still the custodians of everything in the society. We have no say. What is happening? We're just window dressing. It is good to stand up and say, oh, women have rights. Now 50% of women are in parliament. Now in every company, women should hold executive positions. Yes, in the community, women must go to meetings. And when they go to those meetings, who take the decisions? It is men who take the decisions. It is men who are in committees. Even if the women happen to be in committees, those voices are not listened to. It is men who would ultimately take the decisions. This goes back to what we were discussing about the role of legislation. Is it enough for us to think that we've drafted this legislation, we've adopted that legislation without looking at the effectiveness of the legislation? Everything will come